Hey there, it is Ashley with Endurance Diaries Media, and today I am with Rick Sterenko, founder and CEO of SpredX, a web development and digital marketing agency based here in Sarasota, Florida. Clients describe SpredX as professional, responsive, and truly invested in their success, saying things like Rick is one of the few people that I've trusted completely with my marketing decisions. So, in this conversation, we're going to go behind the scenes, diving into Rick's story, the lessons that he's learned in building SpredX, and then his take on what small and medium sized businesses should be doing today in the digital space. We'll talk about everything from websites to ads, SEO, AI, leadership, team culture, and what it takes to build a sustainable business. So, with that, Rick, welcome. It's great to connect here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro. I got to put that on my website or something.
All right. So, everybody loves a good entrepreneur story. You've been growing SpredX for nearly a decade now. Take us back to the beginning and what has inspired you to build an agency that's so client focused and results driven.
Yeah, so journey kind of started in tech 16 years ago. Out of college, was going to University of Florida for engineering, but was working kind of in the background building businesses, and it was actually ecom businesses back then. So spinning up ecom businesses, that was actually kind of before Shopify got big. So it was Magento, then merged over to Shopify, kind of the drop shipping, just getting into the marketing and the web development side of things. And I did that. I actually did that for almost 10 years, 8 years doing that, and then used the skills from that to spin up my agency 6 years ago to kind of take all of that to the local service-based businesses. Again, we're industry agnostic, but they were far behind kind of the competitiveness of the e-com space. So brought it over to there, work with all different types of small local businesses doing web development, digital marketing, ads, SEO, kind of put together the nice stack for them. And yeah, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much since then. I actually didn't grow up thinking I'd be an entrepreneur, so it's kind of down the academic path, and that got sidelined real quick when I dropped out of school.
So, what was it about getting into the web and marketing world that really just sparked your interest there? And what gap did you identify that you wanted to make a difference in?
Think it was speed that interested me. I was going to school for engineering. Actually, only have 2 courses left to graduate, so I got pretty close to the end and already starting to look at jobs and just had worked on some stuff in the summer. And just to go through kind of like the city and the state and all the permits and all that stuff and working with it. It's just very slow and hard to get stuff off the ground. And then I was working on these e-commerce projects kind of at night with these dev teams. And it's just like instantly something's live online. Instantly you can be selling, you know what I mean? And that like fast paced speed kind of got me addicted to the whole kind of tech and marketing thing. And also the way that I got educated just pretty much by YouTube back then. So instead of having to go to school and classes and textbooks and all this stuff, it was just like, I want to learn how to build a WordPress site, watch a YouTube video. And now tomorrow I'm building a WordPress site and I want to learn Facebook ads. And yeah, just kind of that. I actually have to watch out. Sometimes now I'm like too addicted to input because of how fast all this stuff moves and how much you can take in. But yeah, it was really kind of speed and then seeing stuff come into the real world quickly and not having to wait for it, which got me in.
What did some of those early days look like for you as somebody who's just, I mean, at that point, it was just you doing everything.
Yep. Yep. Just me. So as I was coming out of e-commerce, the reason why I came out of e-commerce is because over those years, people started, in my network knowing I was the web guy and the tech guy. And so as kind of my network was getting older and some of them were running businesses or growing their positions in businesses were asking me, can you build our site? Can you run our ads? Can you do all that stuff? Especially you're thinking this 10 years ago was a little less common than all the agencies today. I couldn't, so it was really my network that I started with, word of mouth, just kind of all the people I knew that were either in certain positions or owned companies that I could go into and kind of affect with this strategy and this all-in-one marketing strategy, and then grew from there. Yeah, I did it by myself, up to 50 clients actually, which was kind of crazy. And now there's a team of 7 of us, so which has been moving pretty fast. But yeah, kind of started grassroots networking, asking anybody I knew that had a business if they were interested, and it was good.
What were some of the things that you learned about yourself when you are doing everything and you're, trying to get new clients and you're building this up and you're learning about, your own workflows and how you're operating and all of the things. But what were some of the things that you learned about yourself and challenges and that you've had to, overcome in the process?
Yeah, tons. But I think it's a good thing. Look, I think it definitely slowed me down. Kind of a big risk taker at the beginning of like dropping out of school and starting a business. And then as soon as I take the one big risk, I go opposite and everything's like super anti risk. So it's like be profitable, say, low expenses, all of that stuff. So it's one of those things where it's served me well because I've built, you could say small, healthy businesses, probably slowed me down in the long run, but I'll take it. And then the other advantage is when you're doing everything, you understand everything. So then when you're hiring or talking to the clients. It wasn't like I was outsourcing. I built the sites, I ran the ads. So it was kind of all under my control. Again, slow you down a little bit, but you're dangerous in all of it. So then you know how to hire, everything that you've built. And then just as myself as an entrepreneur, it's funny, like being in ecom, you're kind of behind the scenes. I remember like doing my first sales call and I was like kind of stressed, like the whole hour before I'm like writing down notes and like planning for it and getting all nervous 'cause I'm a bit of an anxious guy. And it's just funny to see like the growth now where I think I've done 400 or 500 sales calls at this point. Give me 2 minutes to prep and I can hop on and talk about anything. So, which are cool, just like business and kind of personal growth things, and I think it as an ecom doing the ecom stuff, I wasn't sure if I was an entrepreneur yet. Like I was doing stuff I could make money, but when you're not like communicating with people or other businesses, doing the sales calls, I wasn't quite sure. And it feels good to kind of have knocked off a lot of those things where now I feel pretty comfortable in sales, service delivery, and management.
And I wanna add to that, and also hiring, you must feel comfortable doing that now. You mentioned just earlier in the conversation that you have a team now of 7 people.
Yep.
Would love to go there a bit. Also in your client testimonials, your clients mention how professional, responsive, attentive, all these amazing aspects about the team that you work with. So take us through that process a little bit. What was the point where you kind of came to yourself and said, "Okay, now I'm going to expand the team and really grow in that way and involve the business in that way?"
Yeah. So, I got stuck in a very common business growth problem where it was all me. And then, you hit the bottleneck of yourself. And then, funny enough, you're like, okay, I have to hire, but now I'm already the bottleneck. I'm already overwhelmed. And now I have to hire, train, and learn how to hire. And I also did this thing where, obviously to grow an agency, you have to be, it's client acquisition that you have to solve. If you don't solve client acquisition, you don't have a business. And so I became obsessed with that for the first 5 years and solved it and totally disregarded talent acquisition, And so then you get to this point where you're like, okay, I have this decently successful business and it's ready to grow and I'm kind of holding it back myself. But oh, now I have to learn this whole new skill. It's a skill just like client acquisition of talent acquisition. And luckily I had some mentors at that point that kind of helped me through it because I tested a few things and kind of failed and kind of just grabbed onto this one. My team's half here and half in South Africa. So I have a split team, half in America, half in Cape Town, South Africa. So I started hiring out of South Africa for kind of the service delivery skills. So the web development, the digital marketing. And so we have Sean, Trevon, Vanessa on my team, all studs. And, but yeah, it was trial and error, it was putting out LinkedIn job posts and, doing all the interviews. I mean, I go with my gut pretty quick, good or bad, So it's kind of like I get stuck on one candidate and then I can't get them out of my mind. So do I do things totally by the book? I should probably get better in the future of interviewing more people. But, I go through them all myself. I kind of get a gut feel, a couple interviews, and then onboard them pretty quick. Gary Vaynerchuk, a guy that obviously in marketing that I follow, I think his quote is like, hire fast, fire faster, promote fastest, because it's always hiring's always guessing. You can get a feel, but you never know until you get them in. So I try not to waste time, get them into a system, get a good feel. Yeah, it's been 7, we've gone from 0 to 7, and that's a couple more hires that didn't work out in between. So probably hired 10 people in the last year, but now really seeing the dividends of that. really seeing what some good team members can do. Also, I didn't think I'd like management, to be honest. I was like, I'd rather just do it all myself. I don't want to have to deal with people. I deal with enough people with my clients. And that's probably my favorite part of my day. Over in South Africa, obviously the time difference. Right when I wake up, I'm talking to all of them on the phone. We're texting, we're calling each other, and team meetings on Friday. So I just got done with one today, and probably my favorite thing is working with the team personally and also for business, because you start to feel that leverage of like, oh, I can spend an hour with my team, and then all of them can go do great things for our clients and with our services, and instead of me just trying to grind away my time. So still have a lot to learn, obviously. A small team, I'm still growing in my management position, but man, feel like I've come a long way in 12 months, thinking back of being alone back then.
Yeah. And, it goes, I think about how important a team is, when you are working with clients and as, the operation that you are running and how facing and focused you are and what you're bringing. And so those values and that culture ultimately impacts how you're interacting with your clients, right? How important has that been just with the relationships between SpredX and your clients, speaking to the team that you've built?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and probably one of the things I kind of at this point right now consider account management the most important part of my business, because even as we go into this AI age and all that stuff, service delivery is getting commoditized. It's not there yet. There's good service, there's bad service. So I think we have great service delivery, and we're actually doing a great job. And there's a lot of agencies that do, and a lot of agencies that don't. But as you can tell, like, that's where the future's going. Like, ads are getting more dialed in and commoditized, web development and all that stuff. And so for my small, medium-sized business owners that are busy, that want no part of that, aren't interested. I mean, some are interested, but really they want to do their thing and let us do our thing. And so it all kind of then falls on account management to
Mm.
bridge that gap between service delivery and for our clients to just feel like they're being bombarded nowadays by agencies. The ones that are close to me are telling me all the time, my gosh, Penn called me this week and said, we specialize in your business exactly, or we're looking over those stats, or your SEO isn't doing well. And they have all these tricks and tactics to try to get people to switch. And so in this industry, and we've accepted it, account management, I believe, is number one, because that's what the client feels, the services that we're delivering, how we're relaying that we're delivering, how we're explaining it to them, how we're getting feedback from them. You get your typical marketing agency that's like, does SEO, and like, here's your reports that look great. And the client's like, my business dipped 20%. That's terrible account. So even getting stuff back from them, are these quality leads? Is it hitting your bottom line? So I like to be that mix between internal and external and really make our clients feel that way. And yeah, when you're growing a team, look, it always used to be me. I was the face. I would sell the clients, then I would account manage them. I was also doing the service delivery. Makes it, from a time standpoint, but easy from like a consistency standpoint. And then you start adding people to the team. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is just making sure that our team is dialed in. We do team meetings going over every single client. So everybody on the team hears about every single client. With my buddy Gavin, who we've built our internal software, Lifted Work, that manages all of that. So every team member can see every client, every task worked on, every service delivery, what all the other members of the team are doing. And then we have like a brain part of it. So yeah, account management is a serious thing in service-based businesses. I deem it the most important part of our business right now, because I think we have service delivery to a certain point where I'm comfortable. I'm happy with the services we're delivering. So, but still a challenge. A challenge moving forward will always be a challenge.
Totally. And just to emphasize the importance of that account management and the word that you use, I was going to say it, the consistency, but because I think that that's something where a lot of times you see, working in different organizations and companies, and that when you have an account manager and somebody's coming in, they want to just talk to that person because that's the person that they know and that they feel comfortable with. But what happens whenever it doesn't even matter who you talk to on the team, because you're still going to have that same level of service and they're going to know about your business and that you can just pick up wherever you left off, and that you're going to have that same kind of brand experience across the board no matter who it is that's serving you. So I love that there's that visibility within your team, and your clients, and I think that's a huge differentiator. Again, to your point there's so many options. I think businesses can be so overwhelmed by what it is that they need that they don't even know. And I think that the level of service and attention that you provide to your clients is a huge differentiator, especially as we continue to advance in AI and all of these other things that, again, there's just more options and more things to confuse businesses.
For sure. And even think about getting, like the right team members, Shravan, media buyer, so kind of ads expert. And what we'll realize is we get a client in, say, a roofer, and we built them a beautiful website and we're running SEO, but like, especially right now where the economy is, like they need leads. So that's most important for them. So then even having that adaptability inside of our agency with a small team that everybody knows something, hey, Shravan, you're gonna hop on this client for right now because they care about leads the most. We're always still in touch, they're still in touch with the same person they came in with, but actually what I believe is delivering better service, because then you have the person, you figured out what the business cares most about in that moment to help them grow. If I was that owner, I'd be like, yeah, I want to be in touch with Shravan because we care most about ads. Shravan's going to know the most. Then that communication flow of, as the client's responding, Shravan's like, cool, I'm updating the ads and everything moves quicker. So yeah, it's a dynamic problem that if solved properly, I think is the most important thing.
So again, back to the point where there's so many options out there. You just start a business or you're a growing business and you're looking at enhancing your online presence or maybe even just getting started, but you don't know where to start because you're getting targeted by all of these different
Right.
agencies and do this and do that and do this. And so when you look at the digital landscape today at these small, to medium sized businesses, what should they be focusing on at this point in time?
Yeah. It's a tough problem, and to be honest, like, similar to hiring team members for me, like I said, it's kind of guessing. Hiring agencies is still kind of guessing, right? A lot of agencies are good at sales, and then it's like, can they deliver? And you know what I mean? Everybody has the sales pitch, and I mean, this is total estimate, it's not real, but I'm like, I tell all my clients, 8 out of 10 agencies are probably not great at what they do. That still means 2 out of 10, but that's a tough thing to get right. So go with your gut, try to feel them out, whatever that looks like. But I think the most important thing, and the biggest mistake I find, and that's why we set up our all in one package where it's website, analytics suite, SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, social media management. The biggest thing for small, medium-sized business owners is just get to that base level. You know what I mean? Don't Too many agencies are coming in like pure lead gen, Facebook ads, and they 60 leads guaranteed per month, your money back, and it sounds great, and the client's like, cool, let's do it. And then they end up like kind of, typically they don't work, or they don't work as well as that because this is a competitive marketplace. The ads platforms are competitive too, so it's never going to be that easy, but there are opportunities out there. And then they just like do just Facebook ads, but their website's still not there and the SEO is still not there. And like each year that you can move forward with just a nice solid base on as many of those services I just mentioned as possible gives you time online, time in the market, increases your viewability on Google, increases your organic traffic, increases your social media, increases your reputation, gives you a better spot for AI. So like my advice is always like, at least get all of the things to that nice first level, and then try to analyze like the further opportunities where I see so many people dive full into one of those things, doesn't work, and then they're back to square zero. And then maybe full into like, oh, TikTok's hot, let me only do TikTok and try to generate, not worth the energy, doesn't work, and now you're back to zero. And it's like, just make sure you just keep moving that base up every single year.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too if you notice this for companies that have limited resources, just this thought that they need to put all of that into the hottest thing, right? So if they think, okay, well, TikTok, I need to be on TikTok, I need to be on, Instagram, I need to do this. I'm just going to put everything in here, and then what you're saying is you're missing just this foundational where you can actually spread across, in different ways and make sure your website's good and SEO is good and your face, and you don't have to do the most on one channel, and you could still have a small budget and be able to cover your bases.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And but I'm on both sides of the fence there, right? And so our plan for $1,000, you get all of that stuff, right? So it's not like I'm asking to like, it's a smaller type of investment per year to get all of that. And you should be doing all of that, because the worst case scenario is you don't build a proper site and you're not working on your SEO or your Google business profile, and then in 3 years You're like, why are these new competitors that have done nothing that why are all of a sudden passing me in the rankings, or they're going to get delivered first on Google or an AI? And it's like, because you just didn't even have it there while you were building your business. So there's that. Then I'm on the other side of the fence of splitting your resources. I actually recommend against someone saying, I want to advertise on Google, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook,
Mm.
all of these things at once. Cause I'm like, no, that's too much going on. That is too much of your energy. That is too much amount spent. Do that base level. That's like an easy base level. Then you can start picking off opportunities. Go all in on Facebook ads while that other baseline is there. Focus on that. Let's get that right. Or Facebook and Google ads. You know what I mean? So yeah, you do have to figure out, obviously, between your budget and your energy allocation, where you sit. It's not about doing everything and that is what you mentioned. Like everybody wants to, you watch a YouTube ad of someone or a YouTube video of someone doing like amazing Facebook stuff, and they're like, post every day and like run ads. And then you're like, I got to do it there or nothing. You know what I mean? And so you get lost in this game of it does seem very overwhelming. So there are times, and that's where the consulting, look, I've always called our agency sort of consulting with execution, which means let us set up your base layer because we believe that's the right thing to do. And then we can consult and know, like, look, other people in your industry make the biggest returns quickest off of Facebook ads. So let's get that Facebook, Instagram. So let's get a video and let's get that going. And then we can move over to Google, so there is some consulting that comes in when you know where to, allocate your first resources and energy. Look, if you can do it all and you can do it all well, better. We all know that, but that's not normally the case for all of us and for business owners. So I think there's a time where it's like, make sure you do everything right. And then there's a time where it's like pick and choose, hopefully with some solid advice from someone.
I love that consulting piece too, because maybe one channel isn't necessarily, where you need to be on. So can you speak a little bit to that too, just from an educational standpoint, or just what it is that you can learn from just having these kind of consulting conversations as well in the process?
Yeah, and I think it's a big thing I bring up all the time when people ask me, should I go external agency or internal hires?
Mm.
And look, there's pros and cons to both. Obviously, I'm more of an advocate of an external agency. And one of my main reasons why is that internal hire gets to see one thing. They get to see that business running on those platforms, and that's it. Whereas as an agency, we're running hundreds of accounts at all times in multiple industries on multiple platforms. And then obviously I'm connected to a bunch of other agency owners and constantly analyzing and auditing other businesses. So it's just like you're getting to see so much of kind of like the market as a whole in certain industries, or what's popping, what's working. And you're not stuck working on like one campaign, like, is this good? Is this bad? Why am I going down? Why am I not going down? So that's a big thing. And that's where the consulting comes in, and that internal, external. And like I said, I'm a big factor of the external agency. And I try to break this down for people. I see these channels super simplistic, and everybody else, it's like, it's a lot. I get it. You wouldn't see it simplistic unless you're actually in it running these ads. And it's really like marketing at the end of the day. You think of Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Google ads, PMAX campaigns, YouTube campaigns. Everybody's like, cost per click. What is going on here? And I'm always trying to dial it back down to the basic of like, you're just trying to get your message, a video, an image out to your audience. That's it. Simple. And it's still that simple. All this math and all the analytics, that is still the game. And so when I look at each platform, I just see it differently. But this changes over time. How I see Facebook and Instagram today is even different than I saw it a year ago. So this changes quickly and you have to be very involved. I'll just rattle some of them off. Facebook, Instagram, it's now all about the creative, right? The like, I used 8 years ago, when I was doing Facebook, Instagram ads, you would like layer different audience segments. So I'd be like, people that are interested in these pages, this demographic, this location, this net income, blah, blah, blah. And you would split test 12 of these and then use this math game where you'd have 3 creatives in each one. Kind of gone are the days of that. Put out a piece of creative, a video that identifies your audience. You got to talk, the algorithm is smart enough, but not so smart where you got to say like, I'm Rick Sterenko, web development, digital marketing agency, SpredX here in, Sarasota, Florida. I'm going after small, medium-sized business owners. Like, you have to kind of repeat who you're looking for and let that get out. And that hits, that video content can hit your audience with the algorithm, looking at the piece of creative and finding them. So I love Facebook, Instagram ads, especially for any local business, right? Just, this is who I am. this is what we do. This is where we are. Anything that makes you feel comfortable. Obviously, here in Sarasota, some of my GCs saying, "Hey, I'm out on Siesta Key doing this house." And someone's like, "Oh, they are from here. They know these roads. My neighbors trust them," just all of that. And seeing the owner's faces really matters. So Facebook, Instagram, it's like right now, video content, your video has to identify that audience and go after them. Then you go to Google and then you're like, okay, you don't get that video face to face on the main search, but you're going after keywords, mature marketplace, not that much room left for opportunity. But as long as I'm bidding, equally to my competition and my website, the place that I convert users is better, I say Google's perfectly competitive, meaning it's just a bidding process. So you just have to beat out your competition with your ad strategy and your website. So like even just those two that we kind of stick on, or then YouTube kind of follows the Facebook, Instagram, like very simple things, but very different things. And it's easy to identify. Again, you're just trying to say, if you're a general contractor and you're trying to get, and I'm remodeling my home, you're just trying to get in front of me, whether it's a video, whether I'm searching remodelers near me and I'm seeing, a Google ad. So it dials down to the basics, but each platform is used differently. Each one has its own strategy. That's where the consulting comes in, where I can tell a general contractor, if you make a good Facebook ad, you beat everybody. It's cheaper. Google's there, properly priced. You're not going to have huge margins, but still it's a bit more like if you don't hit the right Facebook ad, Google's better. So all of these platforms kind of dial down to some basics, but the basics are kind of ever evolving. So you have to stay on top of it.
I want to ask you about, you mentioned keywords. So, for clarification purposes, are you speaking about SEO? Because I would love to dive in there. I think that sometimes you can get lost in what does SEO really mean, and you're talking about keywords, and I want to show up first in Google. So can you just take us through that process a little bit and explain what SEO means for those who may feel lost in it?
Yeah, and you're about to hear a lot more acronyms too, because SEO, search engine optimization. So that was optimizing, your website and your Google business profile to populate in Google search when people search for keywords, right? Now you're hearing AEO and all these other stuff because now you got AI coming in, right? And now, as we all know, Gemini, Google's AI, is populating on the top of Google. And so, look, SEO used to be huge. It's still huge for a lot of reasons, slightly different than what it used to be huge for. Used to show up at the top of Google. If you're on the top of Google, that was it. All of a sudden now there's ads there. And now there's the map pack there. And now there's AI there. So those organic rankings are getting squished down. Doesn't mean they don't mean something, because also the ads are built off that organic ranking. But yeah, SEO by nature is just, you're a business, you have keywords that people will plug into search engines, contractor near me, web development agency near me, best web developer Sarasota, and it's where do I populate in the search results page for these searchers. How do I populate there, right? You go back 10 years, there was like a million hacks, right? Like I always tell this story, like when I started, you would literally write the same keyword 1,000 times on a web page in white on a white background, because Google would go, whoa, they say this keyword a lot, means they're really relevant, and you'd populate to the top of search. Does that work anymore? No, the algorithm's gotten too smart for that. And there's a
That is
million things
so
in
great.
between there. Yeah. So like, it's like hack and then hack's gone, hack and then hack's gone, which is why I try to stay more consistent on the truth, which is just like build a good business. If you build a great business that's getting reviews, and on your website you have great content, video content, written content, page content that says that you're a web agency and a web developer and a web designer, well, then it's probably going to play out. So it's that. It's also, you obviously have the keywords in ads, so you can play both of those. So it's where do you rank organically, and then what do you want to pay for? You have a whole subset of searchers that kind of have identified, they're smart enough to identify ads and go, I don't want the ad, I want to go down to the organic, So sometimes
Mm.
doing both is important. Obviously, paying Google's likes when you pay them. So, when we pay for ads and we're sending good data back through if I want to rank for a web designer near me in Sarasota, and I pay for that, and then Google sees a bunch of people coming to my site, spending a long time on the site, so it's a good result, and then calling me or filling out a form, they're going to go, wait, where did these sit organically? People really like this, and that can help raise your organic, right? So there's still kind of those hacks left. Yeah, time on site. I always love to kind of tell people this. If you just think about it, again, I like to simplify everything. Google's product is their search results, and their customers are us, the searchers, and they're just trying to deliver a good product. And so, how would you know that? I love time on site. If someone clicks a search result, puts in a keyword, searches, clicks a result, goes there, and leaves within a second, Google probably knows not the best product. I don't think I served them what they were looking for. If someone clicks there and spends 5 minutes and goes to a bunch of different pages and watches a couple of videos, Google is probably saying, that was a great product. Clearly, I served something that they were interested in. So that's where I try to that's where I start with SEO is like time on site, obviously.
Is
Go ahead.
that the bounce rate?
Yeah, so bounce is how many people like lose without taking an action. Then you also have time on
Right.
site that you can
Okay, okay,
track. So you can
okay.
track bounce rate, again, how many people didn't go to another page or something like that. So both of those play in. Google recently changed to GA4 some technical stuff where they can actually show scrolling so you can see a bit more of how long people are on your site. So we're heat mapping sites, seeing what sections they spend time. That's why I love adding videos to sites. People hate reading content, but I'll tell you what, you have a 2-minute video, they'll hit it. They'll
Yeah,
watch it. They'll be happy. That also means they stayed on there. So I think SEO, because there's also just SEO agencies. That's just part of our mix of services. And so many, people, business owners are so like fixated on SEO because they think I just need to get to the top of Google, which is true. But there's obviously like a path to that. You can't just, the algorithm's too smart to just let you, who just started an AC company, leapfrog someone that's been doing it for 10 years with thousands of reviews. The important thing is, again, just like the base whole of our services of products is the base whole of search engine view of SEO, meaning you're kind of trying to identify the proper person that should reach out to you and you're a good result for them, because that's going to play out not only on Google and organic Bing, wherever you are, in ads also, if you're paying for those keywords, people deem you're a good result and they're converting off of it, and AI and wherever we go to, right? Like the core features of, if I'm searching for a service business in my area, and as a service business you're trying to be the best result for me, that's going to play out across all the platforms. So SEO, yes, still very important, but not the only game in town. It's more the theories of what made SEO important that's going to stay important, whether it's just, if all of us are never going to go to Google again and we're just going to talk to GPT or whatever our choice is, same thing. It's the
yeah.
same thing, different tactics.
Yeah, so you mentioned some other acronyms there too regarding AI in SEO, and now that's a thing, right? So it's like if you're going into ChatGPT, a lot of people are just using it just to use it, maybe not, to its full capacity or training it in a certain way. But if you go to ChatGPT now, you can ask it a question: what are the best 10 coffee shops in Sarasota, Florida? And it's going to populate a list. So how does that all play in now? If you're a business owner, should you think about Google or AI in terms of SEO? Is it confusing for people? How do you talk through that conversation with somebody who may be confused?
Yeah. Look, it's funny. Everybody is like, gets hyper focused on it. A lot of agencies use kind of fear based marketing, like, you're not populating an AI. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of sales tactics that then get in business owners' head and they start to panic a bit. For us as marketers, it's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But it's just the next step in this like iteration journey of search. So it's like, it just is what, the same thing happened when we got hit with policy issues and we couldn't put white text on white backgrounds, and that didn't get us to the top anymore. Or we couldn't guest post on blogs and use it for backlinks, right? So all these little hacks and stuff that are gone. This is just the next step in this SEO journey. Yeah, they all use, I don't even understand all the acronyms. My clients bring acronyms to me now. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I assume you're talking about populating an AI searches, AEO is the most common one I hear. But again, yes, there are tactical changes. How I think of it is, AI is learning from the internet. The internet, a big piece of the internet is Google. So do well in SEO in Google, and you'll probably have a really nice head start in AI.
Y-
Now, there are some new tactics, and just like to name a few of them that will make sense to you is like, obviously AI is more question answer based than just like search query on like Google, right? So it's like, write your content that is more question answer conversational. You know what I mean? So tell me the 10 best coffee shops in Sarasota. If I'm a coffee shop, I'm probably trying to write a blog post or a section of my site that is like 10 best coffee shops in Sarasota, and I'm going to include myself on the list and do that, and no AI is going to love to like kind of grab that and
right.
regurgitate that information. So it's like question and answer. I'll give you one really cool one. A lawyer that I work with, he's actually having an issue with GPT because it was telling people that were searching him that he had his license suspended in a certain state, which was not true. he was in a case. He was a witness in a case where someone else got their license suspended, and GPT had read the case files and misinterpreted it. And so
Wow.
he was obviously super upset. And then I was prompting GPT, and I was like, "This isn't true." And I delivered the court case, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got that wrong." Like the classic,
Yeah,
like, "Oh
yeah,
yeah, got it
exactly.
right. Our bad."
You're
Now
right.
do they change the system? That's put me on a new game where for most of our clients and for myself, I'm doing a company and personal profile page on every website that kind of just talks through the history of the company, the history of the person, because like something like ChatGPT will go to your site first, and then if it doesn't find enough information, it'll kind of go down the red trail of the internet to try to answer the person's question and the prompter's question. And so I wanted to find it here first so you can kind of control the narrative. And so I want to say, I'm Rick Sterenko, and I went to the University of Florida. I went to Pine View High School in Sarasota, Florida. I've started two businesses in my life, Spread Fashion and SpredX, both in Florida, so that it doesn't, someone says, "Who's Rick Sterenko? Is he good at business, blah, blah," and it finds someone in Nevada with a similar name. And it's like, no, he has two bankrupted companies out of Nevada, right? So those two are like kind of where like, so there's little tactics. Again, those aren't like a big move. I also don't agree with like everybody yelling AI and like you totally switch your strategy from Google to AI. That's never been the case. Again, it's like on this one path, but there's little difference of tactics as you're talking about AI, and it will continue to change, but it's always been changing. People love to talk about AI, and I know AI is huge, and I believe it's huge, and I don't know how huge, but people like to talk like it was nothing and then AI. It's like with the internet, we've been going through so many changes every year.
Well, a couple things that are so interesting. One, I think that's a great tip, free advice you just gave out there too, in terms of for any small business owner or any business owner, right? To have, control the narrative in some way, right? You have a website, include some information about yourself so that then whenever in these instances that you mentioned, someone's in ChatGPT and they pop out something that's totally false about you, you can actually go back in and be able to gently correct it in a way and hopefully then train so that the next time it's populating true information about you. The other part that I wanted to mention as well too is it's funny in a way because it's like, well, where does ChatGPT, where do these AI get all the information? You think, well, it's out there on the internet somewhere, right? It's not just like all of a sudden it's like a new thing that just has all this information, right? It's already existing information that I think sometimes can we forget that that is. And so you speak back to like the importance of Google still, right? Too, where it's like, oh, well, Google was a time in the past. Well, where do you think that all the information that we're getting through AI is coming from?
Yeah, and it's always that way.
Yeah.
Like just now being in kind of marketing for 16 years, I just always watch that the best SEO guys back in the day got rich on Amazon, because they kind of like gained these skills, understood the system. Then here comes the new thing, Amazon, with like this fresh opportunity, and they dialed in the fastest. You know what I mean? And then you saw like early day Google ads guys jump on Facebook ads and just absolutely crush it. So that being said, it's very rare for someone to jump in fresh on the new thing and crush it. So any business that's being sold, hey, beat all the old businesses, jump into AI first. It's not that you don't want to jump into AI first. And there is a gap of someone that stays old for too long and doesn't make the transition. But if you did well on Google, it's going to be a pretty simple transition to do well on AI. And people like to kind of tell a different narrative, which again, I get it. Your biggest time for opportunity is now. So if you were like a small business that didn't do well on Google and you jump on AI first and really go hard, but it's not about skipping Google. You know what I mean? You still got to do Google or the old thing, and then you just got to be quicker on the new thing than all the competition. So it's opportunity and it's also legacy kind of mixed at the same time.
Yeah, and it's here to stay. So I think sometimes it can be it is intimidating, I think, to a lot of us anyways, because we're wondering, well, where is it going to go? But I think especially in such a competitive landscape and for small businesses, medium-sized businesses as well, it's like, again, the question that they may be asking, well, what do I have to do to keep up here? How do I need to adapt? How do I need to evolve? And how do I need to change? And what are some of the things that you can just ease the minds of businesses, going back to the simplicity as well too? Yes, you don't want to get left behind, but you don't need to also panic either.
Yeah, and that's again the consulting side, the external agency side. Guess what? SEMrush, our SEO software of choice. Now they're starting to, populate your, reports and performance in AI based searches. Meaning, if you're taking care of it, if you have a good agency, if you have a good partner, if you have a good internal team, this stuff is just going to slowly trickle in, and like, and you don't have to, like you said, panic about it. It's just about being on top of it. It's about not being out of the know. And that's what I've always hoped our agency could be for clients too. It's just like, I always used to give this example. Like, if you're reading an article, and it wasn't AI when I started this example, but if one of my business owners is reading, like, if you don't populate an AI, your business is crashed in 2026, I want my clients to be like, Rick will know. Like, Rick will handle that for us. Rick seeing that SpredX, the team, Spencer, whoever, whatever name. So I guess SpredX more in general than Rick now. It used to be a Rick thing. Is like, they're on it. They'll let us know. They're watching the industry. I don't now have to go freak myself out reading 7 more articles on Google about how I'm not going to be able to run my HVAC company anymore in 2026 unless I'm like an AI expert. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's just making sure you're in a good spot. Make sure you have an agency or an internal team. Don't be out there, waving in the wind, because that is scary. And you know who I think could take advantage of it the most? There's so many amazing local businesses, service businesses that have just crushed it from word of mouth and like
Mm.
network, and that, like, which is awesome. That means they're a great business. That means their product's amazing. If you're getting word of mouth, and you, like, so many business owners I run into there, I'm like, what have you done for marketing? They're like, nothing. Like, we built a website 10 years ago. I'm like, how do you do business? And they're like, word of mouth. And I'm like, that's like the biggest opportunity ever. That means you're waiting for your product's so good that people tell other people, yet you refuse to tell anybody else but that one person, with your product, instead of just blasting it out to 50,000 people for $500 a month. So, I think it's those businesses, those good businesses, that I don't want to see kind of overtaken by people with better marketing
Mm.
tactics coming
So
into the
good.
future, where AI will be a big thing. So just make sure you're doing that base, because if you have a great business, you have a great product, and you're doing that base level, it will make sense. Will you be competing with the top tier? No, but you also won't get left behind.
I love that, and also because those businesses that are thriving on word of mouth too may also be the same ones that are overwhelmed by everything that's happening in the digital world, and they don't have to worry about it when they can rely on a partner like SpredX to be able to keep up with all of the changes, right? They can do what they do best with their business that's already thriving. It's a win-win all around.
And that's moving quickly, meaning I have a lot of business owners like, oh, I'm trying to figure out Google ads, and it's just like, 10 years ago, maybe, but probably not. 3 years ago, getting tougher. Today, no chance. And now when we get into the AI game, really no chance. And I've seen horror stories. Like, I audit so many Google Ads accounts, and there's just like a difference between keywords and search terms. Keywords, what you enter into the system, and then search terms, what the searcher is actually searching for. And Google, to make a bit more money, has been like, we can find relevant terms. And I was auditing one account one time, and it was for like a lanai cage builder, screen repair. And he had been running his own Google ads. Smart guy, engineer, had like kind of figured it out. Within 30 seconds when I got in there, I went to the search term report, and he was spending about 6 grand a month. So, 70 grand a year for 3 years, over $200,000 he had spent. And within 30 seconds, I figured out that he was spending over 80% of his budget on people that were searching for mobile phone screen repairs.
Wow.
Now, they weren't saying mobile phone, they were saying screen repairs. But as a human going in there, I knew Google was making that relevant, but I could tell this is not someone that had their lanai screen broken or in the storm or something. This is someone that dropped their phone. I could tell by, the cadence of how they're saying it. And so, you know, here's a guy that did a great job other than that, and probably wasted a couple $100,000 over a few years. So yeah, it just, as business owners, do your thing, get a good partner, get someone good internally that you trust. You just have to trust a partner, let them do their thing. It's separate now. It's completely separate.
Yeah, that is surprising. It's actually like it makes you feel for that business
Yeah.
owner.
It was sad for me to tell him that, and quickly. I was doing a live audit on the phone, and was kind of like, my heart dropped for him, and it's, and again, not much he could, like, that's an advanced thing. That's not like a dumb mistake he made. And to be honest, Google has constantly updated their policy of how relevant they can be. How are you going to know that if you're not like, we're a Google part? How are you going to know that if you're not, you know what I mean? If you're not following this stuff daily, and Google is just trying to do their job of helping small businesses. The whole thing of them saying like you can automate it and you can just turn it on and set it, forget it. I'm not a buyer of, even though I love Google.
That's what I was just gonna say is that how do you know that if you don't have somebody that like
You
you,
don't.
like your
You
team,
don't.
and you don't. And then this is what happens is that you spend all of this money and you're not getting the results that you're getting because when you go under the hood and you actually look at the analytics and what's happening, you're seeing the disconnection there. And so again, working with that partner and you're handling that, you're going to be on top of it. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and with proper communication, that's a very simple issue, right? Like we're constantly talking to our clients and saying, "Here's your search term report. Let us know." So like we plug them in. Does this search, is this service sell often, or what do you think about these? Are these more educational or intent based? And like we love to bring our clients into the conversation. And again, it's simple, right? It all comes back to the searcher searched this, then they paid this much to click on your ad. Did you convert or not? So it's always dialed down, but to ask a client, learn it and learn how to put it into a Google campaign and learn how to monitor and learn all the different screens you have to go to monitor it. That's a different question. I don't think the business owner should be the one doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's taking away from what they do best,
Of
right? Like, when
course.
you think about their own, services and what they're providing to their own customers and clients, you want them to focus on that, and so they don't have to worry about what's happening, behind the scenes, and like you said, for a small investment, you're getting everything, and you don't need to be overwhelmed by someone who's offering you services for 50 grand for it's
Yeah,
confusing.
what's the right move? It is, and it'll always be confusing. And there are plenty of options that work. This is the option I kind of thought again at the beginning when I started. It was same price, same service delivery because it's just what I think is like that. Again, we're industry agnostic, but we're kind of client specific. That business that has the owner probably doing a lot, a team, but not a full internal marketing team that are all absolute killers. So that's where we fit in nicely with that type of client. So each size and type of business could be different, but they have to figure out like something that works for them and something they trust so that they don't get thrown in all of these different areas because HVAC, financial advisors, take your pick. None of those should be financial advisor slash marketer. Like it takes full-time jobs to be good at both of those things, unless you have a serious passion for marketing and you want to be like me and, in the gym, listening to marketing podcasts and running and listening to marketing. I obsess over this stuff. For 16 years, I've consumed so much content and I'm passionate about it and it's my business. So it's both. Unless you want to go to that level just for like a personal thing, I would advise, just finding someone that you trust to do it for you. You build your business, you build a good product, you build a good team, then the marketing's easy.
And that trust, I think, is so important. I mean, myself personally, I'm doubling down on that as the differentiator, right? Whenever you're doing business with anybody, is to really have that trust and the attention, like you and your team, that you bring to your clients, right? Where there's that consistency across the brand working with you. And I think it's that loyalty over time and how, I mean, I imagine you could speak to this, some of the clients that you have grown with, within the own growth of SpredX, right? Clients from the beginning that have stayed with you in your journey. And so you even grow together in that way. But it's that trust that, really is a big differentiator at the end of the day.
For sure. It's interesting though, because it's so client specific, as you were just saying that, and I was thinking in my head, like I can pick out a handful of clients off the top of my head where we've like doubled or tripled their business, so they'll just be clients forever. You know what I mean? But do we double or triple every client's business? Absolutely not. And then you even like, we're marketers, we're not magicians. You know what I mean? So like we can't, a business is failing. Like we're gonna try our hardest every time, and we're very transparent. Luckily we're like kind of to a point where we don't need to oversell ourselves, nor do I want to oversell ourselves because that's the first issue of account management right there. If you oversell. But so we're very honest. We're honest with all of this stuff. We're honest with what we could predict and what we can't predict. And, so yeah, client specific, because trust, you get a company that's just in a very competitive market space and not up to its competition. You're like, listen, I think we can get you there and I think we can do this, but it's going to hurt before it feels better. And it's going to take an investment. And if it was that, I sometimes I have to be a bit harsh on my sales calls. So I'm like, if it was that easy, I get like real estate agents and they, want to sell homes, like, okay, I've been spending $1,000 for 3 months and I haven't sold any homes yet. It's like, what commission are you talking about? You're getting off that home, a few $100,000. And so for 2000, like, trust me, if I could just instantly sell homes for $2,000, I'll go take my test and I'll be a real estate agent. So it's just, each one is a different case. And I think what we try to do here at SpredX, the whole team, is like, be honest, you know, give them the best strategy. If we were in your position, this is what we do. We're going to try our hardest, but there's no guaranteed results. The results are also going to benefit. We have some businesses come in and, like, we're pulling 100x ROAS, spend a dollar, make $100 on Facebook ads for one of our clients. And he's pumped. And in my head, I'm like, yes, we're doing really well, but like that was all off his brand name. He just had an awesome brand. You know what I mean? So we're just kind of like on top of your, we're the mouthpiece of your business, but we can't change your business. But what we hope is, for the ones that had no chance, we give them a shot. For the ones that are doing well, they're doing amazing. And for the ones that had this untapped potential, we crush it and they're with us forever.
Yeah, and when you think about sustainability as well too, I mean, think about the consistency over time where nothing happens overnight. So if you think that just in a day or 2 days and all of a sudden you're going to have all these leads, you're going to do this, but when you invest into that and you are in it for the long haul, the results will come. It might not just be something that is instant, but also when you think about the sustainability and longevity, maybe have a little mind shift around the approach to it and the perspective.
And that comes a lot with our, like, even how I thought about pricing at the $1,000 a month is, yeah, if you're not doing this, in my opinion, you're somewhat giving up on your business. And it doesn't mean you have to be with us or whatever. And look, I wouldn't, sometimes I rarely recommend agencies that are 6K or 8K a month. Like, you really have to have some untapped potential to make that play out. And that's what I didn't even want that job myself. I could raise my prices. I don't want to make them 4K. And then at the end of the year, one of my clients going, is, SpredX worth 50 grand? Like, that's a hard return. Whereas if it's $1,000, it's like, if you're not, again, if they switch from us to someone, if they're still trying to do it, fine. But if they're just like giving up on that, it's like, man, you're kind of giving up on your business, and hopefully most, small, medium sized businesses have the $1,000 a month and put the trust there. And again, then you can graduate up, or you cannot at least be sitting here, and not be falling behind.
Yeah, I always think maybe this isn't a relevant analogy, but I think sometimes we're like in any craft, like if you're a photographer or something and you're just getting started and you think, oh, I got to get the $10,000 camera. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what you're even, doing with that, it's only going to be as good as what you're doing, and you don't have a partner in that either. Right. So I just think that sometimes we can get this, oh, we got to go and do the most.
It
Yeah.
throws everybody off, including myself. It throws
Yeah.
because we're consuming the people doing the most, right?
Yes.
Because that's what we see on social media and in the news and all that. So you're consuming someone doing the most that's winning, and then you're saying, I have to do that, and you like don't properly map out. But even at this scale, it take a lot less energy, a lot less time, a lot less money. I have this conversation all the time with like real estate agents. Is a good analogy, like, where they're like, I need a YouTube channel, I need all, and I'm like, oh, that means you're becoming an influencer. Just so you know, if you want to do it, do it. And the real estate agents that also become influencers see extreme, Ryan Serhant at the top, you know what I mean, and all the way down to like local stuff. Like, yes, but just so I want to make it clear that you are now saying, I have two jobs. I am a real estate agent and I'm also a content creator and influencer. And guess what? Then I tell people, all you need to do is make one good Facebook, Instagram video for me to launch ads, run in your local area for 1 million people to see, and you could sell 10 homes off of that extremely profitable, instead of having to become an influencer where you're having to write YouTube scripts and post on YouTube, and now a videographer, and now hire a full team. So yeah, just know what you're getting into and know that there's 1 million steps in between that might be worth it, other than this big thing that we're all consuming, someone winning doing that big thing.
It's such a good distinction because if you create one good piece of content and then your team can go and actually place that in a way where it's going to work for you and convert for you and get that type of engagement. You don't need to try to go viral and do all of this stuff on social media where that's taking all of your time. No, create a piece of good content and then allow that to work for you in different ways.
Yeah. And I actually struggle with it in the reverse. It's funny. Like, I'm such like a workaholic on the small things, because obviously my feedback loop my whole life has been like grind for as long as you possibly can and then see rewards. And like all the like go to conferences and network and produce content like has never kind of brought it back to me because I've never gone fully in because I didn't have time to go fully in because I'm building a business and I saw everybody else make the other mistake where they'd be doing that instead of grinding and then nothing gets built. And now I'm kind of hitting that point in my career where I'm like, okay, but I can't be caught on the other side either. Like it's time to produce content and it's time to be out there and it's time to network because the stuff that you can get now with a healthy business is worth it. So we just have to like break down the habit on either side that you sit of that table. But yeah, I'm like drastically trying to get into that, but know what you're in it for. Because I'll do this thing where I'll be like, I got to film a video. I'm all excited. I just watched someone else's video. Then you spend an hour to film that video, which means I wasn't managing my team or working with my clients or working on my business. And then it doesn't look as good as the one that I watched the guy's YouTube video that's crushing it. So then I'm like, oh, that was a waste of time. So you just have to know what you're in for,
Yeah.
know what the goal is, know how much time and energy, know why and then monitor it on the way up. But yeah, too many people, or too many times people are just making those quick decisions, rush in, not know how they're going to monitor results. And then it's only going to last as long as that initial energy lasts. And then they're going to be like, what a waste of time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like with anything, right? What's your intention behind it? What's your why? And are you going to be committed to that and having the goals in a way or having a vision for it? Because otherwise, you're just going to burn out. So that's so good. Okay, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for the time and sharing more. And I think just it's always so encouraging and I think inspiring as well too, just to learn about how when considering the growth of SpredX and where you are now to when you first started and just your own personal journey along the way. So my last question for you is what piece of advice would you give to any small business owner that is trying to grow sustainably in a performance culture, in a competitive landscape, in a I got to do this, I got to keep up with this, etc.? What's your one piece of advice that you would give?
It's a great question. Again, thanks for having me on. Love doing this. Man, I think simplify it, bring it down to the base level. Don't get caught in the details at first. Just write down on a piece of paper, what do you want to have happen? I don't think enough people know I exist in this town or something, so I need to get more people to know I exist. Okay. How are you going to do that? Like if to tell them that you exist, what are you going to tell them? What are your services? Who are you? How long have you been doing business? What are the best parts about you? Okay, that sounds like a Facebook ad. But like really get it down to that base level so you don't get lost in like a TikTok ad. Well, okay, but the base level was you just wanted more people to know you were there. Or I want to rank on Google. I think people love my products. I don't have enough Google reviews and I don't rank high enough. Okay, so it's just to try to simplify everything so you dull out some of the noise. This stuff, like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not an immediate thing. But if you kind of focus on just those couple things that you say in 2 years, if I just really focus on getting Google reviews, that will help me rank. Or if I just really focus on getting that one Facebook ad out there, that one good video that I get to my marketing team or my internal thing, that will change. So I think you have to dial in on the problem, not all the opportunity, not all the competitors, not all the things. What do you actually want to have happen? Then it's pretty easy nowadays to even figure out kind of what tactics you could use to accomplish that. But I would write down on a piece of paper, what's your issue? Do enough people know about you? Does the product need to get better? Does it need to get out there? Are you missing a demographic somewhere? You know what I mean? Like what's actually stopping you from growing or stalling some of your growth? And then it's pretty easy once you have that issue, one, to go diagnose it with marketing or talk to some firms and get some. I mean, here's a good tip, right? Just book a bunch of meetings with marketing firms. I give out free advice in all my sales meetings. I love talking to business owners. I'll talk for an hour. Everybody will. You're going to get some of those sales guys that don't really know what they're talking about, but you're going to hit some people that really know. So you could figure out that problem. Just go book a bunch of meetings, tell people that problem, hear a bunch of different solutions, do your own research. And, again, not that you should be the one executing, but it's a nice little tip. But then if you have that problem written down, like you said, at least you're going to stick with it and you're going to know this is what I need to solve in 2 years, not TikTok, YouTube, this problem. Not enough people know about me, or I want more people to know about this service I do compared to this service, or my reputation management needs to go up, and yeah, like another thing you said, just don't be scared, like we're all in the same game. Everybody's scared. I'm telling you, I know some of the top marketers in the game. Nobody knows what's coming. We're all scared. Everybody kind of wants to, when you get this fear-based marketing around these big, like industry turnarounds like AI coming. It's fear-based marketing. It's meant to play off your emotions and freak you out and pretend like you're falling behind because that gets you to convert. None of us know what's coming, and it's never coming as fast as you think. You know what I mean? It's not like AC companies or real estate agents are out of business tomorrow because of AI. This is going to take time. So at least if you're just aware, you have someone that you trust is working on it, you just want to be on the upper side of it. If you're on the upper side of it, you'll probably get to take the opportunity on the way there instead of being left behind. But don't let all that stuff freak you out. It freaks me out like it's just nature. And then I'm like, what am I talking about? I know this. I'm using this. This is probably all good for me. Yet just like how people spin it freaks you out. So yeah, just get down to the basics. Don't be freaked out. Think very specifically what you want to change in your business, the small things that'll, make an impact, and you'll be able to find marketing tactics to accomplish it.
Boom. So good. Thanks so much, Rick. This was awesome. I'm excited for the future and what's to come with SpredX and all of the people and businesses and that you're helping and transforming along the way. So thanks so much.
Appreciate that. Appreciate all the questions. Appreciate the time.